I'm Tom Rowland, and this is the Tom Rowland Podcast. Hello, friends. On today's show, I get to catch up with one of my good friends, Matt Lawson. Now, Matt is not a professional fisherman or involved in the television industry, nor is he a guide or an outfitter or anything like that, like so many of the guests that we have here. But what we do share is a common interest and a common experience called SEALFit Kokoro. SEALFit Kokoro is a crucible event where you go out and train with Navy SEALs, former Navy SEALs, like Mark Devine and his staff of both current and former Navy SEALs and BUDS instructors. I mean, it's the real deal. And I wanted to catch up with Matt because this event was profound in my life. It really helped me to reevaluate kind of my leadership qualities, get a gut check on my leadership qualities. I kind of thought I was a decent leader before I went there, and boy, did I learn a lot about it at that point. And in hindsight, I look back and there's a person that signed up for that event, and then there's a different person that came out on the other side, and it really was profound in the success that I've had with my business, and also the success, more importantly, really the success that I've had with my family. As my leadership abilities grew, we just came closer as a family, and that really is the take-home value from something like this. I wanted to catch up with Matt because I wanted to see if he felt the same. There's been a little bit of time now since he's graduated, and I wanted to see kind of if he felt the same, as well as finding out what his reasons were to go to the event in the first place. You know, an event like this could really benefit anyone in any profession, and it might be hard for some people to understand or even get their mind around how going out and training with a team of Navy SEALs for 50 hours in the cold ocean on a California beach might somehow make you a better fishing guide, might make you a better outfitter or a television host, but I can promise you that it did for me. And what it did, it went far beyond just completing the event and having some sense of satisfaction that I had completed this event. What it did, and I wasn't really expecting this, is it really, those guys really forced you to find out why it is that you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. And really, once those questions are answered of why am I devoting my life to fishing in the first place? And what is it that I was trying to accomplish and why? Once those answers come into focus for you, man, everything else is easier in your life. Whether that is, why are you running your business? Why are you running your business the way that you're running it? Are you even interested in doing what you're doing? Is there another way? So many of those kind of questions. The answers that I received, I found on a very cold beach, surrounded by some really amazing people. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was soaking wet, covered with sand, physically exhausted, pushed way beyond my limits. And I kind of came to grips with what it was I was trying to do and why, and really came away from the event with a much stronger focus. Since then, we have experienced a lot of great successes, and also said no to a lot of other opportunities that don't really fit the mission, don't really fit the purpose. So Matt had a similar experience, and we discuss it in length on this show. And for Matt, he had been so focused on his job, growing his business, growing his family, that he kind of forgot about his own physical health. And I think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people kind of go through a period in their life where they really are focused on things that are at the forefront, but they kind of forget about one of the most important things, and that is that if you're not physically healthy, you're not vibrant, you don't have enough energy, you can't really be the person that you could potentially be. You can't really accomplish a lot of the things that you could accomplish if you are physically fit and strong. There's nothing in this life that you can't do better if you are healthier, if you are fitter, if you are stronger. Everything you can do better. So Matt had an experience where he was getting ready for the birth of his son. And like me, that was a major motivator to get back in shape and kind of reevaluate the focus of your life and your priorities. So he looked around and kind of floundered for a bit until he looked to the extreme, signed up for SEALFit Kokoro and embarked down this journey. And he told me that he has thought about SEALFit Kokoro every single day since the event. And he's not the only one that told me that. And pretty much for me, it's almost exactly the same thing. Wherever you are in your journey, you might be thinking, man, that's for me. I need to do something like that. Yeah, I don't think it's necessary really for somebody to go to the extreme that we went to with the SEALFit Kokoro or something like Go Ruck Selection. I mean, maybe it is, but whether it's 50 hours or 5K, embarking down that journey of kind of regaining your health, of kind of getting physical, getting to the point of physical exhaustion, there's something about the way that that helps you with mental clarity. And like I say, it could be 5K, it could be a walk around the block, it could be going to the gym every day for a month, it could be yoga, could be whatever it is to you that kind of pushes you to that limit. I think there's a profound effect on clearing the head involved with exercise. I'm a big believer in it. So I really enjoyed this conversation with Matt, and I hope that you will too. And if you get something out of it, that I would just love it if you would go down to iTunes and rate and review this show, because apparently it's super important for a new podcast to get these ratings. I have actually been quite surprised and blown away with the ratings and reviews that we've already gotten on this show. And I want to thank everybody that's already done that very much, because your comments and the things that you said about me and the show and the potential for the show, it really meant a lot to me. And I appreciate that very much. So if you enjoy it, go over to iTunes, hit the stars, whichever one you think is appropriate, and give it a little rating. And that will sure help to get this thing started and get underway, because I've got some big plans for this. And I'd love to get some of the people on this show that have really meant a lot to me. And I'm sure that they might mean a lot to you. So this episode is brought to you by Waypoint TV. Check out over 2,000 episodes from 60 different producers of the best hunting and fishing shows and short films that there are. Waypoint is absolutely free, and it's available on virtually every device, including Roku, Apple TV, and right there on your phone. Go to waypointtv.com for more information, and you can figure out how to watch all these great producers, all these great shows on any device, anywhere, anytime. Now that all that's done, I want to introduce you to my friend, Matt Lawson. What's going on with you today?
Just, coming to the work and just getting ready for the day.
Well, I like your new office.
Well,
I just walked up here and Matt has moved into a new office. You got a whole new office space. How many square feet you have at Peter?
We have roughly about 4,000 square feet. We moved in November of last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many employees do you have?
We have 13 right now. So still looking to grow and expand. So still have a long way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've done a lot of training together. We have a couple of little different groups that we belong to. One being the book club that we started, which we'll definitely talk about some of that, but also just the training group. And I've watched you over, I don't know what, 6 or 8 years, probably grow this business, grow yourself on a personal level, and do things like challenge yourself on purpose. So I'm just kind of wondering, what that looks like for you. Like when you are living your life, and your dad too, right?
Correct.
How many children?
Kids. We have 2 kids.
2 kids.
We have an 8-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're pretty busy.
Yeah, we're
Busy
pretty
guy.
active. We're pretty active. Yeah, nonstop. Like
And
everyone else.
so, but you found time at one point to do a couple of different events. You went to 20X?
I did. I did the 20X in November of 13
Mm-hmm.
in Atlanta.
And then you did SEALFit Kokoro also. Now,
Correct.
both of those are going through the SEALFit organization.
Correct.
Okay. And so how did you find out about that?
That's a good question. We had just had our second child, Mac, and I wasn't in the best of shape, and so physically,
Really?
yeah.
How did that happen? Because
Well-
you kind of strike me as somebody that stays in shape, or at least now.
Well, I guess just going through, I guess I was in decent shape until we got married, and then that typical process where for roughly about a 10-year period of time, not a lot of physical activity, on and off, on and off, on
Right.
and off.
Is
But
that because you're putting so much effort into being newly married and being, starting your business or getting your business to a certain level?
I would say that has somewhat to yes, that's definitely part of it. And then I just kind of moved away, and I was just doing moved away, meaning I just started doing some other things, and I wasn't working out or being as physically active as I probably should have been,
Mhm.
especially on a consistent basis. So about 38 years when I was 38 years old, turning 39, roughly, we had our second child, Mac. I was all, well, I've got to get in shape. I've got to do a better job. I've got to take care of myself. I really want to see this through, being active in his life, and both kids for that matter, but really for his life as well, because he was just born. I've got to get back in better shape.
Yeah.
And so in the past, I'd always done a lot of more traditional working out with weights, more of a bodybuilding type. And I thought, well, I want to try something different.
Mhm.
And I was just really searching online, and I came across SEALFit. And I thought, this is really interesting. And when I saw the events like Kokoro, I was like, wow, that is extremely intense. I think that I can do that mentally, but from a physical standpoint, I was a long, long, long way off.
Yeah.
So
So when you first see that, and this is before we knew one another, and so you first see that, and what are you thinking? Like, at this point, are you kind of like needing a massive change, something to really shock you back into a different type of routine, or where were you when you first kind of came across this?
well, I wanted a change. I didn't want to go back to what I'd been doing even before when I was pretty active. I wanted something, I guess you could say, more holistic,
Mhm.
more mind body
Mhm.
combination type of training, and that's what appealed to me with the SEALFit. So I joined the Unbeatable Mind Program initially at SEALFit,
Oh, okay.
and then started down that path, and then started doing the workouts, the op wads, or the SOF wads,
Right.
and stuff of that nature. And then that started progressing, and then a couple of months into it, I again going through their events looked at a 20x, and I thought, yeah, that sounds doable in about
Yeah.
6 months.
So what you just discussed there was it's important that not everybody knows what all that means. So SEALFit is an organization that is run by Mark Devine, a former Navy SEAL, and on his staff, either by contractor or sometimes full time, are former Navy SEALs, even currently serving Navy SEALs. And he puts out a website that at this point, when you're looking at it, when I used to look at it every day, it was free. He would put out these different stair-stepped approaches to fitness at the level of a currently serving Navy SEAL, and that would be what was called the OPWOD. And the OPWOD, WOD meaning workout of the day, WOD. The OPWOD that was a really major league amount of volume. I mean, I'm talking about it would take me 2 hours some days to get through those.
They're intense.
Yeah. And they incorporate a lot of volume, a lot of not just weightlifting or conditioning, but both mixed together, as well as rucking and rowing and swimming often, and swimming with fins often. And basically, it's a great opportunity for someone who is getting ready to go to buds or getting ready to go into the service, especially at a special forces level, to follow that program and get in shape. But there's also, you're not just going to jump into that. So Mark Devine is smart enough that he has a master's program, which is a little bit stair step down, not much though. And then there's the SOF WAD, which is what does that stand for? Special Operations.
Forces.
Okay, so but that in my recollection was more less weight focused, more
Endurance.
yeah, more
Yeah.
endurance and more body weight oriented. Then maybe there's even another stair step down.
Yes, there was
Yeah, yeah,
an
like an
on-ramp
on-ramp program.
level. Yeah.
And that's what you see at a lot of CrossFit gyms is that, you look at the workload and it just seems too much. And not only does it seem too much, but there are all these crazy acronyms that you don't understand, and people are talking about things that seem foreign. And so there is this on-ramp program which might take 2 weeks, it might take a month. Some people it might take more. Some people might just stay on the on-ramp program and be fine and be challenged fully. But what you're saying is that when you saw this, your main your main motivation for getting in really good shape was the birth of your child.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, I definitely wanted to improve where I was at that time, and then also just for myself too, to feel better again,
Right.
and get back in better shape. And so, this when I came across the SEALFit, I said, "This is it, and this is what I'm going to do." So I jumped in both feet, and I really had no idea, when I started. As I started down that journey, I guess you could say, with the 20X, after I started on board with Mark Devine's Unbeatable Mind, which is a super program that he puts
Mhm.
on.
And let's just explain that. How would you explain unbeatable? If somebody asks you what is unbeatable mind, what would you say?
I would say the Unbeatable Mind process is more of a routine that Devine puts in place, and it's more focusing on being present, awareness.
Mhm.
He has the big four. He's a big believer of the big four, which is controlling your breath and positive self-talk and visualization, and then effective goal setting. So that's the kind of the cornerstone of the unbeatable mind, and just managing your mind, controlling your mind, and not letting that monkey mind take place and run different direction. And so coming back to centering yourself and stuff. And that's not only in working out or in different events and stuff like that, but even day to day, whether we're dealing with our families or we're dealing in the workplace or just with friends. I mean, how we have that monkey mind always moving. So really trying to focus and create a stronger, more controlled mind, I guess you could say.
Mhm. And so when you're not in shape and you don't have this structure, and
Sure,
before you embark on this,
sure.
were you when you look back in hindsight, were you just frazzled? I mean, what was it like when you
Well,
were not in good shape? Was your monkey mind driving you crazy?
sure. And I think I was more reactive
Yeah.
in a lot of situations. And you feel so much better when you are working out, you are doing things physical. I think, as you're working your body out, you're also working your mind. You know that as
Yeah.
well as anyone. And so I just wasn't where I really wanted to be. I just didn't feel very good physically. I
Mhm.
kind of felt sluggish. How's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And my waist size actually was showing that, moving from a 32 size waist to a 35 size waist. I
Yeah.
know it's crazy. And I'm today back to a 32 size waist. So not that that's really important, but I'm just talking about how I really let myself go. And it was just really out of just being, at the end of the day, lazy. No other, yeah.
So now you have motivation and you actually have a goal of the first one going to be 20x, or was your goal to do Kokoro first?
When I saw Kokora first, I knew that I wanted to do that, to take on Kokora, but I was so far away from what the standards were, the minimum standards, and then, finding out, after more and more reading that was a 50-hour nonstop, no sleeping. It's modeled after the Navy SEAL Hell Week. I was like, my goodness, I've got a long way to go. So let me
Yeah.
do the baby step, or a smaller step, I should say. Let's work towards the 20X event, SEALFit 20X event. And so I contacted through email Brad McLeod,
Mhm.
who's a former Navy SEAL,
Yep.
and
Seal grinder PT.
SEAL Grinder PT, awesome guy, phenomenal guy, and just really down to earth, very helpful. And so I was reaching out to Brad, and he was really good, and going through all that process on the emails back and forth, and giving me some workouts to focus on. And then in November of 13, so I started the SEALFit in May of 13. And so in November of 13, I went and did a 20X event, which
So a
was,
20x. Describe a 20x event, because I have not done a 20x event. I've coached a 20x event, but I've actually not been through a 20x event.
well, for me, Tom, initially I was like, wow, what have I gotten myself into? When the door came up and they came out with a water hose and the ice baths and everything else right off the bat, the intensity level, I was like, man, this is far more than I originally expected. And what have I gotten myself into? I
Mhm.
mean, I remember having that thought as
Yeah.
we were doing thrusters and push-ups and getting in the ice bath and being sprayed in the face with the water hose and all the screaming and yelling with the bullhorns and all that. I was like, wow. But it's a phenomenal event that they put on, and it's very professional. I thought Brad did a phenomenal job, and Coach Lance Cummings, who's also was with SEALFit, who's also a Navy SEAL. phenomenal. I mean, very professional. And then you had the black shirts, which were former Kokoro graduates that also participated in it and helped Brad and Lance Cummings run the event. And so, but it's a 12-hour event. We started at roughly 7 o'clock in the morning and we finished at 7 at night. But it's very intense. It's nonstop. It is a great mental training and physical training. Will definitely, as they'll say, show you that you're capable of 20 times more than you think you can do. I mean, the intensity level was crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
the
so
work capacity was crazy.
that's really the point. And that's the point of really all of this. I mean, there's a couple of different reasons for an event like this to exist. One, you are a young man that's thinking about going to the real special forces. Probably nothing better than to have a dose of this occasionally beforehand to really kind of get a good idea of what you're going to subject yourself to for 6, 8 months and possibly for the rest of your life. But then there's something else that appeals to people like you and me, and that is a massive change from what you're doing right now, whatever that may be. For me, as a fishing guide, I'm a fishing guide going fishing every day. Um, I'm in my comfort zone. Everything is comfortable. For you, it is, you're a new dad, have motivation as someone who just had a child. And that was really the beginning of my fitness journey was when Turner, my oldest son, was born. Now, so he's 20 now, so he's about to be 21. So we're talking 20 years ago. Cynthia gets pregnant with Turner, and I'm thinking, man, I'm happy with so many areas of my life, but not all of the areas of my life. When this baby gets here, I'm going to be in the best shape of my life. That's what I decided. That was my motivation. And so I started, and it was not easy because I mean, I'm out there poling a boat all day long, and that's as simple as it sounds. You're pushing a boat with a stick into the wind usually all day long, which makes for strong shoulders. It makes for a strong chest. It makes also for a big belly occasionally because your clients bring you lunch every day, and
Sure.
you're out there, and sometimes the fishing's not good, and you get a little bored, and what do? You sit down and have a sandwich, think about what's your next move. So eating is a part of this whole thing, and next thing you know, then your clients ask you out to dinner, and a lot of times you're not getting enough sleep, and you're back up before the sun again the next day. Next thing you know, you're 40 pounds heavier than you
Wow.
want to be,
Yeah.
even though you're incredibly active
Mhm.
and even though you're incredibly leading an awesome life. And it has you being incredibly happy with what you're doing and the things you're accomplishing and the people that you're around. But there's this other aspect to it that you're kind of missing, and that's the discipline in your diet and the discipline in the working out. And quite simply, I couldn't go very many days on the boat, one after another, when I wasn't in very good shape. I wasn't drinking enough water. The whole thing, when you start to clean up your diet, you start thinking about all these other things. So when I'm out there on the boat every single day, I'm not drinking enough water. I'm letting my electrolytes get low. Then 4, 5, 6 days in on a stretch, and you see it happen with the clients all the time, is they just go down. Their energy level all week long just goes down and down and down and
Huh.
down and down until the last day they're basically mush. And they just haven't been drinking enough water. Their electrolytes are down. They've been staying up too late. They've probably been drinking at night. They're off their diet. They hadn't gotten any exercise, and they're out in the hot Florida Keys sun. It's a recipe for just
Sh-
wilting someone.
Yeah, no doubt.
So as I started to get back into shape, I just decided 30 minutes a day. That was my first thing. I'm going to run for 30 minutes a day. That was my idea. But of course, going from no running at all for years to trying to run 30 minutes a day usually equals a running injury of some
Yeah,
sort.
that's tough.
You got plantar fasciitis, you got a tight IT band, and you're just out sorts, because you haven't been doing this. And so, you encounter those problems and the fitness journey goes up and down until finally get that under control. But I didn't know how to stay in shape. I didn't know how to get back in shape because I was a high school wrestler, but I didn't know what does a regular person do? Like, what am I going to go find a wrestling team to wrestle with? Or, where?
Sure.
So I go back and try to join a regular gym,
Mhm.
which is a weird situation because
Yeah.
I hadn't been in there in a long time. There's a lot of mirrors and it's kind of weird. And so anyway, I just settled on running and then ended up running marathons and all of that. But that was the beginning of my journey too, was having a baby. And that's a huge life change. And it's a great monumental time in your life where you can say, I'm changing this now,
That's right.
like
Yeah.
a major indelible change. So with you, you go to this 20X and I'm interested in that first part, like the door opens, the water hoses, the in some cases fireworks and smoke bombs
That's right.
and noise and megaphones and the toughest dudes you've ever seen in your life are right there. So how do you not quit right then?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess some people do, and I have witnessed that
Yeah,
from being on the other side. I was fortunate enough to be a coach on a 20X event after completing Kokora, but and they do quit. It's amazing, but there was just no way that wasn't even an option for me. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen no matter what.
well, one of the things that's interesting there is that that's not an option because your main goal is Kokoro.
That's right.
And this is just a stair step on the way. And so you have mentally trained yourself immediately that this is just a stair step. And if I can't handle the first 5 minutes of this, there's no possibility that I'm going to be able to handle this over here.
Yeah, no way. And so it was funny because we were going around the room before we actually started the event. Brad was talking, Coach Brad and Coach Lance and stuff. So we had to stand up and tell everyone why we were there
Interesting.
and what our goal was. And so when I stood up and said that I wanted to complete Kokora in the next year or two, Brad looked at me like I was crazy.
Other than the target being on your back at this point, what else did that do for you?
Yes, and then I had the black shirts giving me a hard time throughout the whole event, just ragging me on it in a sense. Everyone looked at me like I was crazy, and I probably was to some extent. But yeah, that was coming out of the gate at the very beginning. I was just blown away by the intensity of it.
Hmm.
I mean, I really can't explain, and it was great for me to experience that intensity because that's Kokora nonstop.
Hmm.
And so, and I would even say then some.
Hmm.
But it's a great event that they do that SEALFit puts on. The 20X is phenomenal, and all
Yeah.
the coaches were so professional. And they definitely don't coddle you by any means. And people quit all the time. I think they have the ones that I've been involved with on the coaching side. The attrition rates. And I know that they don't want it to be there. That's not the goal of a 20X at all, is to have anyone quit. That's not the objective of it. But they still have 50% attrition rates that
Right.
I've witnessed inside it, and it's really more mental. It's really, in my opinion, 80% or 90% mental. You have to get there physically, get your body prepared physically. Kind of, I heard a wise statement by someone a while back saying preparation with anything is everything.
Yeah.
And so that's the key, I think, going into it, physically getting prepped and then mentally just committing. I mean, no doubt, no matter what. I mean, and they're big at staying and staying present and not thinking too far ahead and
Yeah.
not thinking about what just happened and focusing on others. And I learned so much about myself going through the 20X experience and what's really possible, and then about handling other people in those situations as well and watching others go through it.
So you're talking about handling other people like in your regular life or in that particular camp?
Well, in that camp, but also assisting and helping and encouraging and motivating, because everyone goes through the ups and downs, the roller coaster, even of a 20X event over a 12-hour period of time. The intensity factor of it is crazy, and it's a real deal. I mean, they're serious about it, and it's odd to do a lot of the things that we did and others have done going through those 20X events. It's not normal. And it's not like I've ran a marathon and I think they're awesome and all those events are awesome like that, but it's not my pace. It's the coach's pace.
Right.
And their pace, being Navy SEALs, is a little bit different, a little bit faster.
Yeah. And it's customized.
It's intense.
Yeah. It's super intense. But when I say it's customized, it's like, okay, this guy's sailing through.
Oh,
So we are going to put the hammer down
no doubt.
because and this other guy can't
Yeah.
keep up. So we're going to structure this to where let me see your backpack and I'm giving it to the strongest guy. And in fact, let's give him 5 backpacks
That's right.
because everyone here is going to suffer. It's not like the 5K where it's a very significant challenge for some people, and maybe a life, maybe that's the peak of their athletic life. When that's fine, that's great. But there's another guy that ran a marathon last weekend, and this is a training run, and he sails through. But that's where the coaches in these events are equalizers, and and that brings me to the whole point of the thing is that it's not about individuals;
You're
it's
right.
about the team,
That's right. No one does 20x by themselves. It's
right?
impossible.
Hmm.
And it's virtually impossible to do Kokoro by yourself. You cannot do it by yourself. It's something bigger than you.
Those are the things that I really learned in my experience with this. My background, for whatever reason, is in individual sports: wrestling, swimming, tennis, racquetball. What else? Water skiing, competitive water skier growing up, and probably a few others that I could. Like martial arts or karate or whatever. I was drawn to these individual activities. I don't know why. I generally found comfort in these individual things, like wrestling, for example. You could be on a bad team, but you could win your match. Your team could lose the match, the dual meet or whatever, but you still, you put your performance in, you did well.
Sure.
So you could do well and the team could do poorly, or the team could do well and you could do poorly. But I never had a problem with the one-on-one. I kind of like the one-on-one, which has served me extremely well. And it's also been probably one of my greatest weaknesses in that. And then fishing is the same thing. Now especially with a history of wrestling and competing one-on-one with people. Now I'm the captain of the boat. All the decisions are on me. I'm not asking anyone else for decisions. I don't need anyone else for decisions. There I am again in my comfort zone of living as a one man show, right? Well, that worked really well for a long time. And it definitely helped me to overcome a lot of challenges and to achieve a certain amount of success. Then I embark on this journey of SEALFit Kokoro, later Go Ruck Selection. And I was looking for a challenge. I was definitely looking for a challenge. What I got out of the events was never considered going in. And what I got out of the event, what I learned in SEALFit Kokoro immediately was that Rambos don't make it. So, in other words, Rambo, if you remember, maybe some of you are too young if you're listening to this, but Rambo was a movie that probably was out in 1985,
That's right.
right?
That's great.
And
Awesome.
he was a one man army, and he
Was.
was a wrecking machine, and he just tore down this whole town, and he did it completely by himself, and he didn't need anybody, and the SEALs used that as an analogy. Rambos don't make it. If you think you're going to be like Rambo, you will not make it here. We will guarantee you that. What they were trying to say is the whole point of this camp is for you to learn how to operate as a team with strangers that you've never met before.
That's right.
And you're going to endure the most challenging physical things that you've ever endured in your life until you figure out how to be a team. And then what you're going to find is that you're going to be enduring those same challenges, but somehow they're going to be way easier.
Well, yeah, absolutely. When you come together, that's a big thing of Kokoro and even the 20X. When you figure that out, and it takes a while,
Yeah,
unfortunately, some faster than others. But when you figure that out and you come together as a team, it is seamless
right,
the way you operate, and it like you said, it is. It's I won't say easier, but it's amazing how you move together
right.
once you do come together.
Yeah, and so the point of really all of this is it's really nice to be talking about going and training with Navy SEALs and all that, but the real take home value is what does this teach you, and how do you bring any of these lessons back to your normal life? Like here we are sitting in your office that you've just moved into, so obviously you've achieved a pretty significant level of success since you went to one of these events. What lessons did you learn the hard way by going to both 20X and Kokoro that you bring back into your business life, your family life, your friends, your what is it that you
Well, I,
brought back?
I think well, there's a lot, but I think on the leadership role of it's not just like you said earlier, the Rambo, the one
Hmm.
person. It's more of a a team group, and how do we lift up others? How do we the person that's going through the tough times, how do we pick them up and move them forward? Not taking the responsibility off their shoulders. Just like in Kokora, you still had to do the work.
Right.
I mean, no one did anything for you.
Yeah, it's exactly the opposite. You're actually holding them exactly accountable for what they said they were going to do.
Exactly.
Maybe for the first time in their life or for the first time in a while. Not so much for the people that are attending these camps because they're pretty much stand-up people. Some of the best people I've ever met in my life were in this camp, but some of them are not being held accountable
That's
in
right.
their regular life. That was one of the things that I learned is you're definitely helping people.
And taking the focus off myself and not so me, and focusing on others and how can we lift them up
Right.
and how do we move together as a team.
So how did you bring that back to your family?
Well, I think, of course, from an accountability standpoint, maybe a little bit, also a bit more, it's weird to say empathy in a sense, but a little bit more patient
Mhm.
and on the processes of what we're doing and raising the kids and stuff of that nature. And again, just knowing that we're all capable of so much more, and working and talking with the kids about how we grow is getting outside of our comfort zones.
Hmm.
I was definitely in a comfort zone for some time, building a business, and we were busting our butt building the business, but I'm still staying in my little cocoon. So when I moved in this path or this journey with SEALFit, that was way outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that we were doing, I'm really not a cold water person, to be honest with you.
Me either.
And I'm telling you, I mean, the ice bath scared me to death because
Yeah.
it's something I just don't enjoy. But you have to learn to like that. It's like doing bear crawls. You hate bear crawls, but you do so many of them, you end up actually liking them. It's weird. And so, preparation for the Kokoro event was definitely a lot of cold baths, a lot of ice baths, a lot of cold showers. So those type things. But going back to the
And that
kids,
is because they are going to put you in the Pacific Ocean, which is about 50, 50 some odd degrees, right?
yeah, 55,
And so,
56
and you're
degrees.
going to be sitting in there for a long time, very similar to the training that they do in the real buds. So the cold water preparation is so that you don't freak out when you get there.
I have never been in colder ice baths in my life than the ones they prepped at Kokoro. It was ridiculous. And then
It's that California air.
I guess so. I guess so. And but the other things they do, I won't spoil it for anyone that's thinking about doing Kokoro or doing Kokoro and what else takes place while you're in the ice baths. That's another level that they do. But the kids, our kids and stuff, wanting them to understand to get outside of their comfort zone and try new things, do new things. Even it doesn't matter if you fail or don't succeed. That's part of it. That's how we learn. So don't be afraid to do new things. So I'm really encouraging them to do a lot of things, even if they don't think that they're good at it. Let's try that. Let's try as many things as we possibly can. And that's okay if we don't do really well, but let's keep moving forward.
Hmm.
That's I
Is
think
that being well received?
sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. That's day to day. That's definitely day to day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, the Kokoro journey was phenomenal, and there's so many takeaways, and I think about it, I would say on a daily basis, something that happened. I had phenomenal
And
teammates.
this is how many years ago that you
I
went
did
to
it in
Kokoro and you're still
October.
thinking about it every single
Isn't
day?
that crazy? Isn't it crazy? I would call it an extremely transformative process
Yeah.
that you go through. The journey itself is an amazing journey just to get there, but phenomenal teammates. I mean, phenomenal teammates.
Are you still in touch with those people?
Some of them I am, and not all the time, but periodically we touch base and stuff like that. And they're just really good people. I mean, they're like you were stating earlier, they're very stand up people. But the intensity that you go through with Kokora, and it's a 3-day deal, no sleep, surf torture, massive amounts of work capacity, and constant mental chaos. I mean, I think those four things kind of sum it up on a Kokora.
Constant mental chaos on a level of expert plus by the Navy SEALs who have already been through the real buds, who have been instructors in the real buds, and have also um, been in active duty. So when you're talking about how do you manipulate the mind and how do you get someone to quit and how do you make things really difficult or make somebody answer a question that they have when they got there, like Am I good enough to do this? Am I capable of doing this? They are experts.
They are, and even though, yes, no doubt about it, it was. They are experts beyond what I think we can comprehend, and they're serious. I mean, they're extremely serious, and we had several former buds instructors there on staff, and they run in shifts, as you know. They
Mhm.
run in the shifts and
Yeah,
stuff
keep them
like that.
fresh.
Absolutely, and that's awful, but awful. But as Coach Devine, he made a lot of good points when we started out on the grinder. That's the SEALFit headquarters in Encinitas. Is that you can watch it? You can watch videos, you can read books, and you can go hear people talk about mental
And you
toughness.
can hear people talk about going through this camp like we're talking about right now.
But until you actually step into it and do it, you have no earthly idea of what it really is and what you really go through. We can watch a 2-minute clip at home and think, "Hey, I can do that." But it's really totally different when you're there and you're in it. And again, I've said intense 100 times, but just they are masters at finding your weakness, and
Yeah,
they're going to push you to that limit. And then you're going to decide, you're going to make that decision whether you take that step and move forward or you quit.
right.
And that's where they're masters of. I mean, I
Did you
can't.
see that?
Oh, I did. I did. I felt that. I countless times, as you well know, as you're doing runs or sprints or whatever we're doing, whatever evolution we're doing at that time, if you're in the back, that's not a good place to be.
No.
Obviously, you haven't prepped enough, and so it's nothing to then see someone pull to the side and then let's do an extra 50 perfect 6 count burpees because you haven't put the work in to be here. So you do that enough, that makes you really start thinking, should I be here? So it's really a mind game where they're getting in your head. I mean, the constant yelling, screaming, which is great. You don't really enjoy it while it's taking place, but it's nothing personal. That's just part of the whole process. And so if that really bothers you, maybe you shouldn't be there in the first place.
I don't know. If that really bothers you, maybe that's exactly where you should be.
Well, that's true too.
If that's the thing, if that's your weakness and that's where somebody calls you out and you immediately freeze and you immediately recoil and go into this behavior of a non-healthy behavior, like you just shrink. If somebody were to call you out or tell you that maybe even it's giving you, I've seen people do this a lot where that you're giving them or someone is giving them constructive criticism, actually trying to help. They just freeze, shut down, and actually shrink.
Well, yeah, and that's a great point. We saw a lot of things go through the Kokoro camp when you're up for 50 plus hours straight with no sleep and you're doing all these activities, or they refer to them as evolutions. You're going to see a lot of stuff. Your body does a lot of things that I never thought it would do from a breaking down standpoint, not in a bad way, but just an adjustment standpoint. But yes, people being called out for accountability things and their attitudes changing, and really the coaches getting under their skin immediately, and then the person physically looking perfect.
Yeah,
I mean, a great specimen, obviously put all the work in physically, but mentally wasn't there, and they quit.
yeah,
And it's
and
like because you got called out because you didn't do your air squat past parallel, and you're going to really get upset and quit.
right.
Are you kidding me? But it happens. It happens.
36 hours in
Yeah, it
sometimes.
happens. People quit, 30 minutes before you
Yeah,
finish.
we found in my class that the most people quit within the first 2 hours. And then there was probably another little rash at about 20 hours in. And then once people made it past that, we became, just like you were mentioning earlier, we bonded together as a team, and there was going to be absolutely nothing that would stop us. And actually, at that point, I think the coaches have to be careful that they don't kill somebody because they will, we would have done anything. And if someone went down, which we had a couple of people, two people in my class that were hurt, they physically wanted to continue, and we said, "You're not quitting." And we carried those people, literally physically carried them everywhere we went. And what they could do, they would do. When we went into the ocean, they went into the ocean. But our class just pulled together and actually carried those people right through,
I,
physically carried them.
I think that just shows a tremendous amount of grit and determination. And I think, didn't you have one of the guys in your class that had a torn ACL
Yeah,
that
yeah,
made it through and
yeah.
towards ACL?
He's one of the people that we were carrying.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's awesome. I
But
mean,
but what I got, and those moments are really cool to be part of and everything. But what that did for me, and I think what it did for a lot of the people in our class, but it had a really major impact on me because of this background of being an individual athlete and thinking, especially as a fishing guide too, thinking I can do anything by myself. I don't need anyone. I'm going to put in the work. I have enough discipline. I am going to do all these things. And you know what? That's true to
To
a
an extent.
large extent.
Sure.
But what was massively transformative for me was to go there and realize, okay, first of all, I think I might be the second oldest one here. And then they did this thing where they invited all of these CrossFit Games athletes. So we had a bunch
You did.
of
You had a
super high
stellar
level
class.
athlete, including Kenny Leverich was there. We had Becca Voigt, who is an 8-time CrossFit Games champion, Katie Hogan, and others that I'm not even remembering right now. But even those three, I'm nowhere nearly as physically capable as as Becca or Katie. Like as those female athletes can just about do anything that I can do better.
Sure.
Like they're stronger.
They're
They're
they're amazing.
they're unbelievable. So I get there and I'm kind of like, wow. Not only am I not one of the better people here, I think I might be the worst. Like I know that I put in the work, but no amount of work that I put in is going to make me Kenny Leverage. So that was the first clue. Like, wow, I'm going to need some help to be able to do what they can do. Like if I don't know what we're about to do, but if I'm supposed to measure up to him, this is going to be really, really hard, right? And so,
Well, it's like the long PT work. I
yeah,
mean, it's a perfect example. There's no way you can pick up that
you
log and
can't.
move it 500 yards by
Right.
yourself or do
Exactly.
walking lunges
That's
with that
that's a
log.
perfect example. And there's no way that 5 people on that log can move it without all 5 of them doing the work, not only just doing the work, but doing it all at the same time
Exactly.
in the proper movements exactly at the proper time, and the thing sails up and it's not that heavy and nobody gets hurt. So I took that and I learned that immediately by being beat over the head for 50 hours that no matter how good you are, Kenny Leverich or any of these other athletes cannot move that log 15 miles down the beach without a bulldozer,
It's
right?
hard to go to that next level without having a good team.
Well, I learned that the hard way. And then when I graduated Kokoro, I came back into my life and I'm realizing, wow, this can be applied to every area of my life. Okay. So starting with the most simple example, who is my team? My team is my family, right? And so I can lead this family. I can go out and I can make money. I can make the decisions for the family. I can pay attention to the finances. I can, you know, do what I think a man's responsibilities are for my family, and they can just trail along behind me. Or we can come together as a team and discuss these things and have each one of these team members um, have contribute to what we're trying to do. We all get on the same page, and we are an unstoppable team,
Far more
right?
successful. No doubt.
You can take it into your business. I can be a business leader and say, we're doing this and you do that, you do that, you do that, you do that. And everybody report to me at the end of the day. And that's one way of leading. The other way of leading is to get everyone to understand what it is that we're trying to do, why we're trying to do it,
What their roles are.
what their roles are, how they can contribute in a way that no one else can. And this thing that we're trying to accomplish means this to the world, to you, to me, to the viewers, to whoever it is that we're talking about, and get the team on board, and things start happening. Things start happening at a monumental level that are not going to be accomplished individually. That was the biggest lesson that I learned, and that was the biggest take home. I'd like to know if you did you feel that, or
No,
was there something else
no,
that you took away from it?
I did. I definitely felt that, and it's. I guess what how I would frame that, or one way I would say it would be, it's something bigger than myself. at the end of the day. And also another big takeaway is having that strong why. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? Like starting that journey back in May of 13. Why am I doing Kokoro? Why am I going down this path? And it was really, for our family, our son being born, and then also for myself just to get back in shape and stuff. And I wanted something totally different. The SEALFit experience from 20X to Kokora was 1,000 times better than what I originally thought it was going to be. I would recommend it to anyone, but there are so many takeaways that I have from that whole experience at Kokora that I think about daily or every other day. And I do a lot of journaling as
Mm-hmm.
well. Immediately after Kokora, you don't remember everything, but as time goes on,
Yeah.
you start remembering just about everything, 90% plus of what happened at Kokora and all the lessons and the coaches along the way. They're also teaching lessons on as we're doing things. And, we never made our time. We never made our
Yeah.
times. And we were
When you
always
say you never made your time, they say you got to get to the end of the beach in 42 minutes and carry all this stuff with you. And you get there, and somehow it just happens to be 43 and a half minutes.
always,
Yeah.
always. And it pays to be a winner. And there's so many sayings and things that they had, but it's so true. And when you're going through that experience at Kokora, I mean, it's so true that Mark Divine says, they strip you to your core. And you are. I mean, you are stripped down. You just got your t-shirt on, your BDUs on, your boots on, and that's it. And you're doing amazing things with amazing people around you as a team and moving forward. And I think that's what kind of blew me away in a sense. Whether it's 4 o'clock in the morning or it's you're 36 hours into it and you're hallucinating or whatever it is, we're all capable of so much more. And if we can include others in that process and we're all buying into it and we all have that strong why, then we're really unstoppable. And I think that's what Coach Mark Divine has brought in more than anything from like the SEAL teams is that's one of the many things that makes them so unique and so elite and special is that they come together as one and move as one, and that's unstoppable.
And it becomes exponential. Their intelligence becomes exponential. Their potential becomes exponential. Everything as they are such a tight group like that.
Yeah, and
It's
very unselfish,
mhm.
very unselfish, and sharing information back and forth. But yes, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's if you could come up with three things that you learned from this period of your life that you brought back to your business, your family, um, what and you could write those down to hand to somebody. What would they be?
I would say leadership by doing and not talking, but more action. I would say focusing on others as opposed to myself first, and just never quitting, never giving up, keep moving forward. Have a positive attitude and keep moving forward. And if it's hard, if it's tough, it's going to pass. And so just keep moving forward no matter what. I think having a silver lining mentality, changing your mindset and viewing things not kind of from sticking your head in the sand in a sense, but there's something positive we can take from about every experience. And so that was one big thing at Kokora. As hard as it was, it's extremely difficult. There's no doubt about it. It's 50 hours plus no sleep, surf torture, all that, and beyond. But it's staying present, and I think that's a big takeaway. Another thing that I would give advice to
Mhm.
someone is trying to stay as present as possible and not really focusing so much on what happened 10 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago or 2 days ago with all that crazy chatter in your head, or worrying about what might happen and sucking all that energy from you.
Mhm.
Because when you're there at Kokora and you're 5 hours in or 2 hours in, I think that's what gets a lot of the people is just that is like, oh my gosh, the intensity is crazy, and if it's tough now, I can't see myself making it 10 hours or 50 hours, much less 3 days.
Right.
And I think that's what psychs a lot of people out moving into it, as opposed to just doing what's in front of you now.
But everything that we're talking about and everything that you've just explained from that camp is basically that camp is a microcosm of life.
Absolutely.
It's far more intense,
little bit.
At times.
Yeah.
I mean, life could be pretty intense too.
No doubt, no doubt.
And it's really easy. It's really, I mean, maybe the only thing that's easy about a camp like Kokoro or Go Ruck Selection is that you are being forced make these decisions. You are being forced to have a good attitude, because if you don't, there are serious repercussions that are going to happen in the next 10 seconds. That's not necessarily the case in life. It might happen 2 days later. There's this bigger lag time between, if you have a poor attitude today, that may be reflected in 2 or 3 days, right? Um, so it's easier to understand the importance of things like attitude, of things like taking care of your body, like things like being a great team when you're in that environment. So how are you doing it on a daily basis to take those things that you just wrote down and handed to somebody as advice? How are you keeping those in the forefront of your day every day?
I I I'm trying to live that every day, I guess. So I'm pretty disciplined. Maybe not as disciplined as some other people, but I would say on average, I'm pretty maybe above average on the discipline side. So I have a morning routine or a morning ritual that I do.
What is that?
I I I, I do journal. I
Hmm.
journal every morning. I also go through a 10-minute or 20-minute meditation session
Hmm.
every morning. I do some box breathing to try to center myself and focus and kind of visualize where I want to be, what I want to do today, how can I get better. I'm always striving. I've taken this from Brad McLeod. Always trying to get better, 1% improvement every
Hmm.
day in some area, and
Yep.
then looking back at the end of the day to see it, looking at the things that went well and kind of building on those. And then, of course, on the physical side, I'm trying to do a 20-minute to 45-minute workout every day, 6 days a week. Usually take a Sunday off and maybe still do something outside. But
Okay.
those are some ways that I try to incorporate that, and through that morning ritual, then that kind of sets me up for the rest of the day, so that I'm following through.
Well, in your journaling, so what are you writing in your journal? Are you what are you writing in your journal every day?
That's a good question. I do write down things that I'm grateful for, things that I'm looking forward to doing, what I'm excited about doing, what my purpose is, more on the self mastery side, which is a constant battle. And then, how can I help others? What am I doing to help other people? I think, that's a core of SEALFit is self mastery and service. And then what am I doing on a daily basis to move myself closer to my purpose? What am I doing
And you
there?
have that purpose. You have spent some time to come up with that purpose, and you have that clearly in place.
I do.
Mhm.
Well, I feel like I do. I think as we move forward, things are always
Yeah, I
shifting
mean,
and we're
it
always
always
evolving
changes.
and growing in that nature. But I do, and it's changed since I began the process. I started the journaling in 13 at the Unbeatable Mind with SEALFit, and that has just been a very positive habit that I've been doing every day. And so it doesn't take too long, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of journaling, and then moving from there. But I think it's been very beneficial for me. If anyone has a monkey mind, I do. And so I trying to center that monkey mind and calm that down and being more responsive as opposed to reactive.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to be very reactive, and that's just not always a good thing. And so how can I be calm and responsive as opposed to irrational and
Hmm.
reactive? And so those were good things through the Unbeatable Mind, and then all the way through 20x and being present, and then Kokora. I mean, that's a long process. Kokora is it was a long ramp for me, I would say. I can't
Yeah.
speak to anyone else on that. Some people are in different spots, of course, but I mean, even able to come, me being able to come down there and work out at your place at the RRL, that was phenomenal because awesome people down there, great workouts, very intense, very challenging. That prepped me, for Kokora as well. And then even showing up wearing my boots, and as silly as that looks, I mean that's very important in that Kokora training.
No, that's it. You fight like you train, and no, I mean when I got started getting ready for Kokoro, I wore boots and pants and the black belt and the t-shirt, the cotton t-shirt,
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
just the regular. I
No,
mean, I don't wear a
I
cotton t-shirt
that's what
when I
happened.
work out, but I figured, man, if I'm going to wear this for 50 hours, might as well work out all the kinks, you know? And so that again, I mean, it's just this whole process is exactly like what you do for life. If you are getting ready for a sales seminar and you're going to have to get up in front of a whole bunch of people and you're going to have to talk. Well, do you want to practice that in your pajamas in front of the mirror in front of no one? And then you're going to put on a suit and you're not comfortable and the shirt's a little too small and and you're not comfortable with it and now you're going to have to go through this whole deal in something that you're unpracticed. I mean, like everything you do should be practiced as if you're going to do it that day. And make the small changes. If the collar on your shirt's too small and it is causing you to be super uncomfortable, then you need a different shirt. Well, when's the time to find that out? Not during the presentation. It's 3 months ahead of time, so you get the right thing. These small little tiny details are what I learned also about preparing for Kokoro and preparing for selection was that you got to do it exactly like you're going to do it at the event. You got to have your boots broken in so they're not going to cause you any problems. We saw lots of problems with that. I couldn't believe people showed up with boots that weren't broken in, but they did.
Isn't that amazing?
One guy showed up with steel toe boots,
That's
which
impressive.
is just incredible. I mean, I ran hundreds and hundreds of miles and rucked hundreds of miles in my boots and then put them aside because they were perfect and then
Yeah, yeah.
trained them out with another pair of shoes. But I find that, you're saying like you think about this every single day. I do too. And we've talked to so many other people, either from our classes or from other classes that say the same thing that there's not a day goes by that they do not think in some way, shape, or form about this experience. And I think that there are probably plenty of other experiences that can have this type of an impact on people. Maybe a 30-day silent yoga retreat might. I mean, I don't know. You want to talk about getting out of my comfort zone? That would be
Wow.
way out
Hey,
of
you and
my
me
comfort
both.
zone.
That would be
But I'm
crazy.
sure that you would encounter some demons there.
Oh, no
Um,
doubt.
you know,
No
and
doubt.
there's going to be some places where
Holy.
you're going to open some doors in your mind that you didn't know existed. Whatever it is, the most important thing is that it's far out of your comfort zone. The most important thing is that there is some discipline required to do it. And you and I found that this was a perfect thing for us. I don't know if this is a perfect thing for everybody. It may not be. But what is important is that um, I think that a lot of people our age, and I'm talking about our age being anything between 35 and 50, you have done pretty well. Things are good. You're comfortable. You don't have to do more, but you choose to do more. You choose to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation to see how you're going to react. And if that's all there is in this particular event of I just want to see how I'm going to react. I'm going to tell you how you're going to react. You're going to quit. It has to be more. And you have to dig deep and it gives you an opportunity to go and journal and look and say, what is my purpose? And why am I here? And what is it that I'm trying to do? And then put that to the test because 42 hours into Kokoro, you are going to find that either that's really super important to you or you didn't make it 42 hours.
Yeah,
That's the other thing.
absolutely. And during that, like 42 hours, 36 hours, I mean, and it's a 50-hour plus event. I mean, your mind does crazy things. And Coach Devine said over and over before we started, if you can't get control of your mind, if you don't get control of your mind, you won't be here. It's not your body so much that's the problem. Your problem is your mind.
Yeah.
So you better be able to control it and silence that negative chatter or just chatter period and move forward. I mean, I know prior to Kokoro though, Tom, I immersed myself. I mean, obsessed because I read as much as I possibly could about Kokoro. I mean, crazy. I mean, everything out there I think I read. I mean, your blog that you had, I
Yep.
mean, we talked about it. I mean, but you were awesome that you did not tell me exactly what was going to happen. And I thank you for that because I think everyone should experience
Yeah.
that because it takes a lot away. But I read all the books. I mean, Tom, I've probably, I mean, as far as SEAL related books on buds and stuff, I've read countless. I mean,
Yeah.
from Fearless, and they were all, and I got so much from those books. And I have so much respect for everyone that serves or who has served. It's amazing what they've done.
Well, that's interesting because that's another thing that I find super interesting about Kokoro, 20X, Go Ruck events, Go Ruck Selection, Go Ruck Challenges, Go Ruck Tough. These are both organizations run by former Special Forces people, SEALs or Green Berets. I didn't fully appreciate the Navy SEALs, the Green Berets, the Army Rangers when I was in high school. When it was time for me to have made that decision, it wasn't even on the radar. It wasn't even a
Same here.
possibility for me to think I'm
Same here.
going to the Navy. That just wasn't that just wasn't there. I
It
mean,
wasn't on the
first of all, it
radar.
was peacetime,
Yeah.
right? Major peacetime. It had been peacetime for a long time. So I remember there was like one guy in my high school class that thought he might go to the Marines. Okay, one guy. But there wasn't this sense of of necessary service for whatever reason. I think it probably was peacetime. I mean, just that there was not a lot going on. So the Navy or the Army or the Marines or the Air Force was an option that was out there, but it just wasn't on my radar. And so therefore, I didn't read these books and I wasn't exposed to these people, and I didn't know how truly amazing that life can be. And I didn't understand how truly elite each one of those individuals was
No
or
doubt.
is
No doubt.
as an athlete, as a scholar, as a mental magician, really, in
Yeah.
their own mind, and how to manipulate other people's minds for both positive and the negative. But that just wasn't on my radar. So I didn't learn about any of this stuff or really achieve any appreciation for it until really 9/11. And then at 9/11, started thinking, man, look at what these guys are doing. You're watching TV. It becomes way more aware. You become more aware of it. Then I start reading some different books. Then there's the Marcus Luttrell incident that happened that really, I'm going to say, brought a lot of this, at least more to the forefront of my attention.
There's no doubt. Yeah, that's same here. I mean, from the lone survivor, but Lieutenant Michael
Michael
Murphy,
Murphy, yeah.
no doubt,
Yeah,
front and
and so
center with that.
there's
It's
a couple
crazy.
of different things there that um, it, it became more of a focus because of um, 9/11, because of this Operation Red Wings that went bad. And if you don't know about that, you need to read Marcus Luttrell's book Lone Survivor, as well as many other books that are out about it now. But that had a big impact. And then, CrossFit. I got into doing CrossFit, and one of their very first hero workouts was Murph, and that was Michael Murphy. And there on the workout, it tells you the story, and then encourage you to find out more about the story. And then Marcus Luttrell's book comes out, and it becomes more and more and more on the radar. So here's an opportunity to where you're thinking, man, that sounds really amazing. Look at what these people can do with their bodies and their minds, and
What we're all
look
capable
at the
of.
amount of training that
That's
they're
right.
getting. Wouldn't it be cool? Because now I'm 45 years old. There's no possibility. I mean, they wouldn't even allow someone to go in at my age, and it. But wouldn't it be cool if you could experience that, right? And so there's all kinds of little camps where you can go and, you put on the uniform and you pretend like you're so and so. This isn't one of those. This is actually a snapshot out of Hell Week. And I'll be the first one to say that I don't know what goes on in the real Hell Week because I've never been to one, and I would never will go to one. But from the people, and maybe they're blowing smoke or treating us kindly, they're saying it's pretty close. So whatever. It doesn't matter if it's close. And I've said that before on this podcast, is that if it doesn't matter how similar this is to Hell Week or how dissimilar it is to Hell Week, or if it even has any remote comparison. The fact is that you signed up to get challenged, and they challenged you to the core and way beyond, right? But I just think that's kind of cool that at a later stage in your life, maybe you didn't know about it, maybe you didn't respect it, maybe you didn't understand it, maybe it wasn't an opportunity, or maybe it was a missed opportunity. But you have that opportunity now to go back and experience it. really, and to get training from these type of people. And I think that's cool with anything. I mean, you have somebody else like a Laird Hamilton now that has XPT training with Gabby Reese, and Laird Hamilton knows an amazing amount of stuff about the human body and about mental toughness and about achieving things that you didn't know that you could achieve by riding 100-foot wave. I
Oh,
mean,
sure.
and creating all of these. I mean, Laird Hamilton is a really interesting guy. He has created so many products.
Doesn't he have like a golf product and he's
Yeah,
a surfer?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's called the golf board, and it's like a giant skateboard that rides on big wheels, and it's fun.
So instead of doing the golf cart,
Yeah, you ride on this thing. It's a little more physical. You get a
that's
little
pretty
more
cool.
activity. You're able to go anywhere on the course because the thing's so light. I mean, I don't think you can put it on the green, but a lot of places are getting these things, and it's kind of like surfing. And you're doing this, and a lot of people are like, this is way more fun.
Yeah.
But he invents something like that. He gets back on the stand up paddleboard and starts surfing on one of those things. And actually now that was like something that was not thought of. Like, I mean,
Sure.
people had forgotten about the stand-up paddleboard, and he brings it back, and now there's this whole industry
It's
of
crazy. It's taken
SUP.
off.
People we fish on it on the show. It's amazing. But the point being is that people like him, people like Mark Devine, have these things that are set up. So whatever you're into, you could probably be into computer coding, and there's probably the best guy in the world probably has a camp you could go to.
Yeah, and that's originally where Coach Mark Devine originally started SEALFit, established SEALFit to, from what I understand and what I've read about it, is to increase the graduation rate of the
Right.
buds, get
Right.
people through Hell Week, as opposed to having an 80% plus
Hmm.
attrition rate. How can we lower that attrition rate? So that he was kind of working with the Navy and
Hmm.
feeding them. How can we
And he
do
fully
that?
expected that this camp would be full of nothing but 18, 19, 20-year-old people who are on their way
Navy
to
SEAL
buds.
candidates, absolutely. And like in my class, my Kokoro class 40, we had 3 guys that had contracts, and from the last I'm aware or checked, there was 1 guy that's actually, from all I know, he's made it, and that's awesome. And he was
We only had one guy that
okay,
that
that
was
had a
was
contract.
planning on going. No, he didn't have a contract, but he was
Okay, he's
planning
planning
on
on doing
going.
it.
Um, and I
And
don't know if he's made it or not.
and my hat's off, the guy that actually, from what I understand, made it all the way through. Phenomenal guy. Phenomenal guy. I mean, just a great, great guy. 17 years old at the time, I
Wow.
think, 17, 18 years old.
Jeez.
I mean, but he wasn't, I mean, he wasn't the strongest and he wasn't the fastest, but he was just solid. But one takeaway from him is his attitude. His mental attitude was off the charts positive.
Well,
And
again, that's just like life. You don't have
yeah,
to be the smartest. You don't have to be the fastest. You don't
no,
have to be the richest. You don't have to be the best leader. What you have to be able to do is to be pretty good at all of those things, and then to be able to pull it all together to really achieve some success.
I think more, Coach Devine, I mean, what he's done with SEALFIT and pulling all this together, and then the talent that he's attracted with all the coaches, and is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the way
You know
they're
what's funny about,
changing
or
lives.
what I really liked about Kokoro and 20X and all that too is it's really funny. like like the Derek Price, that's a funny dude. And so you can't even really imagine how this goes, but imagine yourself at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're on the beach and you've been in the Pacific Ocean, you're freezing cold, your teeth are chattering, and there's a former NFL player and many Navy SEALs, and they are ridiculing you to the point of really laughing hysterically
Yeah,
because of the way that they're doing it.
it
He is,
is. Outside looking in, no
oh
doubt.
man,
And Derek Price, I think he completed Kokoro twice.
yeah. I don't know about twice, but I know he did once, and he is a phenomenal leader, flow
Oh
master,
my
I guess you
gosh.
would
He
call
is
him. I
so
mean, he just kind of,
quick-witted.
oh
He is
man,
so quick-witted. I mean, the things he comes up with on the fly, amazing. And
on the
he's a
fly.
great dude.
He is.
He's a great
He
dude.
is so funny. When I was coaching the 20X that we had around here, I say coaching. I was a black shirt. Derek Price was the coach.
Yeah, yeah,
Brad McLeod was the
yeah.
coach. I'm there just kind of getting ice for the buckets and watching how this thing all goes
That's
down.
what I did, Tom.
And we had some members of our group there. Clay Watson went through it. Jordan Gallup went through it. My son Turner went through that one. And I remember one thing so clearly. They were doing burpees or push-ups and trying to do all these things, and they'll tell you, "Get on your back, get on your belly, get on your back, get on your belly." And of course, they're telling you to do this in the middle of doing it. They're telling you to do the other way. So no matter what you're doing or how athletic you look like a complete spaz.
That's right.
And
That's
all
right.
of a sudden, I hear him go, "Gallup, you were cut from every high school sports team you ever signed up for."
Derek is so good.
Yeah.
He's so good, and he's brutal,
Oh,
and he's
man.
relentless.
He's so funny.
But he's a great person. But yeah, when he's on in that coaching role, it's unbelievable.
And he's doing it through a megaphone too,
Oh
which
my
is all the
gosh.
better.
He is definitely an asset. Yeah. Oh, he's hilarious. He's hilarious, and so I definitely enjoyed watching it.
Yeah.
As opposed to having to be the producer.
I don't know if it was, I don't know who said it. I think it might have been Greg Glassman, but he said, men are bound together with sweat and humor better than any other way. And,
I like that.
It's funny because it starts out with sweat.
Yes.
And then it's humor.
That's right.
Right. So,
That's right.
and that's what we do when we're in our group. There's a lot of challenging workouts, and there's a lot of training that is truly challenging, and a lot of times just in your own driveway that you can meet all the demons you want to in your head, and you want to quit. And sometimes those are the most difficult times when you're by yourself, when you're realizing, man, I've worked out every day this week. I probably don't have to do this today.
I'm a little sore here or there.
Yeah.
Maybe I could just take a day off.
Maybe it'd even be better if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so you encounter that all the
Do
time.
I really want to get up? It's 5:00
Right.
in the morning. It's a little raining outside. Should I
Right.
really get up? But that's the best after you do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then to find yourself in a group of other people that have a ruthless wit as well.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I just love that. I just think it's so fun
That's priceless.
to
is.
get in with those people. We're lucky enough to have created this group around. And if you can't make it every day, there is an email that goes out that will also have a ruthless wit attached to it.
It's unbelievable. It is
It's
crazy.
funny.
It is funny. It's very funny. It
So
actually brightens the day sometimes.
yeah. So one of the things also that we've done, we've talked about, how do you keep these things, these themes in the forefront of your mind, and how do you run your family or bring your family together as a team? How do you bring your business together as a team? How do you do all of these things, especially years after going through this crucible experience of Kokoro? One of the things that we've done is starting this book club, and you and me and 4 or 5 other people have been reading these books chosen specifically to kind of keep these themes in mind. And so I've got the whole list, and we started this, and really, it's anybody could do this. You find a couple people that you like to talk to, and you just say, "Hey, let's meet for coffee for 30 minutes every 2 weeks." And or you could talk on the phone, you could have a conference call, you could do anything. It could be your college buddies, it could be any way. And let's pick some of these books that we hear about and some are awesome, some are life-changing, some not so much, right? But so we decided we were going to put this little group together, and it really requires almost no time. I read way more this way, and most of mine is audiobooks. Either while I'm driving, while I'm running, while I'm doing something else, what has been referred to as net time, no extra time, right? So I'm out working in the yard, I'm out working on my boat, I'm out changing the oil, I'm out doing whatever I've got to do,
That's awesome.
listening to this, right? Going running, going on a 5-mile run, you got something to listen to, better than music. So since starting, we have read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, Relentless, Power of Positive Thinking, 10X Rule, Ego is the Enemy, The Road Less Traveled, Mindset by Carol Dweck, which
Very
definitely needs to go right on the top of anyone's list, especially if you have children. Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink, Leif Babin, also top of the list for anyone, in my opinion. The One Thing, On Fire, Obstacle is the Way, The Rise of Superman, School of Greatness, Open, the autobiography of Andre Agassi, Small Giants, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, The Forgotten Highlander, Never Split the Difference, Start with Why, Fishing for Happiness, Stealing Fire, Daring Greatly, Disrupt You by Jay Samit, also one of my favorites, The Oxygen Advantage, Chasing Excellence by Ben Bergeron, another one, especially if you're into CrossFit, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Don Miguel Ruiz. That was an excellent one. We read Elon Musk's book, Tesla, SpaceX, and the Quest for a Fantastic Future. We read The Shack, A Million Miles in a Thousand Years by Donald Miller. The Carpenter, The Stand, The Ultra Mindset, Perceptual Intelligence, Legacy, The Story of the All Blacks, Untethered Soul, Hillbilly Elegy, and The Art of Learning. So, of that list, which ones stand out to you?
I think Relentless is one that stands out.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
It's by Tim Grover. And Relentless is a story told by this gentleman who ended up being the trainer for Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and many others.
I think Wade is one. Yeah.
But his story of how he steps into this role of trying to get Michael Jordan to be better when he's already at his peak.
When he's the best of the best.
Yeah, he was already at the best.
Crazy.
And so his first thought was, he'll never want to talk to me. He's already the best. But what he found out was that the best is the most open to being better. Yeah. So it spoke volumes about Michael Jordan's attitude and about why. I mean, you pretty much immediately saw why he was the best at what he did, because he had a relentless, just like the book title, he was relentless in trying to get, probably at his level, he's looking at 0.0003% better,
a
because
slight edge.
1% better for Michael Jordan is like as good as a high school basketball player right now. Like,
right.
So can he get 0.000003% better? Yeah. And so he puts his faith in this guy, and you know what? He actually did it.
Extreme Ownership is another. I know you mentioned it, but it's another great book that we can apply. Business, family. I mean, that's one. That's just. I think that's one that's still on my nightstand that I have that I'll reread.
If it makes any difference, that's my most gifted book.
Okay.
This year.
Okay.
I have given that to my nephew. I've given that to a number of people. However, the most profound book that I've laid on anyone, where I've actually seen it change the way that they do almost everything. Extreme Ownership is definitely one of those. But this book called Never Split the Difference.
Oh, that's a great one. That was a great one too, on the FBI negotiator.
I mean, there are 5 or 6 on this list that really, really stand out. That's definitely one of them. Never Split the Difference is a FBI hostage negotiator that is retired and now wrote a book on it. And his book is amazing. I would definitely recommend that one. I also like, for busy people, The One Thing. The One Thing is Gary Keller.
Yeah, that was a really good one. The focus, in a sense, on the one thing.
Yeah, I think that's where your journaling can come in. Is in my own journaling, I kind of look at that and I write down a few things that I want to get done today, and then his book is all about what is the one thing that you can do right now that will make everything else either. How did he put it? He said it'll make everything else either unnecessary or basically look at the things that are on your radar right now. Which one can you pick that's going to move the needle the best or make everything else unnecessary?
That's right.
Right. And I like that a lot. Like, if we do this, look at all these things that we don't have to do.
Because, and I'm guilty of this as well, and I'm always trying to improve on this, but all the busy work, the things that you think you have to do, but it doesn't really move the needle. But we convince ourselves that it really kind of moves the needle. But at the end of the day, it doesn't move the needle. And so whether that's at work or having a real direct conversation or a conversation
Hmm.
with your family at home, just what, as opposed to being there present, but really engaging and moving the needle that way. But at work, how often do we all go through the process of getting caught up in busy work as opposed to focusing on something
Yeah.
that we really know that moves that needle? That may be a little uncomfortable, but we know we're going to get the best reward by
Yeah.
focusing on that one thing that's a little uncomfortable.
And it's also the old adage of which hat are you wearing? Are you wearing the $8 hat, the $80 hat, or the $800 hat? Um, and there's somebody else that can do the work of the $8 hat. There's somebody else that can probably do the work of the $80 hat, but only you are the one that is able to do the work where you're wearing this hat that what makes you $800. And that's an interesting way to think. So, did you do you give books to people?
I have actually. I have.
What's your most
I
gifted?
have, Tom, I have given the Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
I've gifted that book quite a bit. I've ordered The Art of Learning, so I've got that coming. So those two
To give that away.
to give that away, and
And
I've
the art
also
of learning, that's an interesting one to talk about because that's the one that's on our list right now. I haven't read it, so you know way more about it. I've read about half of it. And this is Josh Waitzkin. And Josh Waitzkin was a chess, he hates the term chess prodigy, but he was, by definition, a chess prodigy. He was killing people in the park playing chess in the New York parks, which, if you know anything about that scene, very competitive, kind of street hustlers playing chess. And some really amazingly intelligent people are there. And this little 6-year-old kid comes and wipes the table with all of them,
that's right.
wipes the table with them with help from them. Like they became kind of his mentors and coaches, and he listened, right? Like, huh, how'd you do that? And then they'll tell him, but they might not tell everybody
No,
because
no,
they know this kid's not here hustling money from them.
that's right.
So they're teaching him these little secrets. Then he goes and gets some formal training, but never forgets the street hustler side of chess. Then, after winning major championships, including a world title, right, he gets a little burned out and decides to embark on a martial arts career. And he finds Tai Chi, which is the very slow martial art that you see old people doing in the park. And it is supposed to be a tremendous way to clear your head, stop the monkey mind chatter that we've talked about already on this. But I guess, and I'm speaking out. I don't know what I'm talking about when I say this because I guess that there is a further realm of Tai Chi, which is actually martial arts where you don't move so slowly and you actually fight, and it's called push hands.
The push hands, yeah.
And so, anyway, Josh Waitzkin goes and learns this amazingly quickly and becomes a world champion.
Couple years becomes a
Yeah.
world champion, and it just takes a lot of that stuff that he learned from chess over to the Tai Chi, and then excelled at the Tai Chi and stuff. And it's just amazing. I mean, his journey and his concentration and the things that he had to overcome on the chess side, and the different styles and the people trying to put him in different boxes, and then he really having to fight his own internal demons on the
Hmm.
chess side to excel. Another book, though, Tom, that I like a lot is also Fearless
Oh, yeah.
from Adam Brown.
Yeah.
That's one I've given out to in the past, and I read that one years ago on the journey to Kokoro. But that was his story. Adam Brown's story is unbelievable.
It really
I mean,
is.
it is. I mean, it is crazy. I talk about it quite a bit. I mean, I was talking to my brother about it the other day. I mean, it is. It's hard for any of us to have an excuse when you read his book.
I know.
That guy's life and what he did and what he overcame. Are you kidding me? I
Right.
mean, it's unbelievable. And then the level that he achieved inside the teams, making it all the way to SEAL Team 6, and the hand issue, the eye issue.
Yeah,
What?
when you're
It's
saying
crazy.
all of this hand issue that you're talking about, that's the one of the things that when I think about that book, I think about it immediately. And doing something as simple as a SEALFit Kokoro, and then reading a lot of these books and learning just a small amount about what the Navy SEALs are about, because I don't think you're going to truly know what a Navy SEAL is really like until you are immersed in that culture, until you are actually one of those people, and it's kind of
Absolutely.
a very very small group that I'm never going to be part of. But I can learn a little bit about it and I can appreciate it. And when you are around some of these people, you realize the training that they've done over really a lifetime. and the amount that they are shooting is just absolutely incredible. They are on the range just shooting, and
Oh,
they could shoot the wings off a mosquito. And
it's crazy, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
and
amazing.
then to think about, like, in this particular book, you have all of these candidates that are within a fraction of a percentage of one another, and only the ones that are the very best, the most consistently, are going to make it to the next stage. And so Adam Brown, I can't remember exactly how this happened, but he hurt his hand.
He was in a Humvee and it
Yeah.
flipped
Yeah.
and it crushed his hand and it crushed his dominant hand, his right hand.
Yeah.
I mean, that is amazing. And he had to have reconstructive surgery on his entire hand.
Yeah. But this is at the time when he is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been a while since I read that book, but he's getting ready to go to Green Team.
Yes, and I think he's already made it through Sniper. I don't want to give the book away totally,
Yeah.
but the eye issue was phenomenal. But you're right, he's on his way to Green Team.
Yeah.
And the
And
hand
so,
issue
and
happens.
so perfectly healthy individuals are going through this, perfectly trained, having shot thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds with their right hand, with their right eye dominant, and there are fractions of a percentage point away from one another. And only the very, very, very best make it to this next level of the SEALs. And it was called Green Team in this book. He hurts his hand and has to learn how to shoot with his left hand
It's crazy.
and compete at that level.
It's. I mean,
That is like Michael Phelps winning these gold medals and then finding out that he could never swim with his arms again. And he would just have to do it with his legs and go win some more medals.
I am so thankful that we have people that are serving this country in the military that have that type of commitment. I mean, it's crazy.
But that type of commitment, but
It's
also
crazy.
what you get out of that, or what I got out of that, was here's this situation where he says, okay, I can't do it that way. So how can I do it? I can teach myself how to shoot left-handed and compete with the best pistol shooters, literally the best pistol shooters in the world.
Kind of a gross understatement of adapt and overcome.
Wow.
I mean,
And also that
puts it in
there
perspective.
is no, there can't is not a word, and that's what we learned in Kokoro, and it drove my family crazy when I came home from Kokoro, and that was my new mantra: can't
Tom,
is not a word.
I say the same thing to our daughter, and it drives her crazy.
Yeah.
It drives her crazy. But it's just, I mean, you're seeing someone like, Adam Brown, who ended up giving his life for, being, killed in the war, and what he was able to do early. I mean, even early on in the journey, to even getting into the Navy was a phenomenal road, and the things that he had overcome just to get there was unimaginable.
Yeah.
And then getting there and making it through buds and graduating and joining a team. I mean, just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows you the commitment and the determination, the will, the strength. And again, 80-90% of it's mental.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it's
keeping the
mental.
why close.
Yeah.
He had a real why. So if you hadn't read that book, you definitely need to put that on your list, as well as so many of these other ones. And I'll put this list in the show notes for this show, and you can join our book club.
Another one, Rogue Warrior is another good one too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read so many of those, so many books that I got a lot from, that I learned a lot. They're phenomenal books. Eric Greitens is another one, who is the governor now in Missouri, and he has a couple of books out, and I've read his, and his are phenomenal too. And David Rutherford, who's a Navy SEAL, has a couple of really good books.
And Rutherford has a podcast too, with Marcus Luttrell. I think. Isn't he on that Team Never Quit?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's one of those hosts, and if he's not, I apologize.
But he has an amazing story. I mean, a lot of those guys, even Marcus Luttrell, his story is phenomenal. Of course, but just getting to Bud's.
Well, you're going to find that every story. I think that every story of an active duty SEAL that is achieving success is going to be an incredible story, because the odds of making it are so high, stacked against anyone from doing it. I mean, there's injury, there's illness, there's so many things that happen along the way, that is literally like winning an Olympic medal.
Yeah,
Like,
it's extremely elite,
yeah,
elite. And one takeaway from their books, and even listening to Coach Devine or if Brad McLeod, they're always learning.
yeah.
Those guys are always learning.
But they have to.
They're never satisfied where they are. They're always getting out of their comfort zones. If you even look at the things Brad McLeod's doing now on the 350-mile
Yeah,
bike ride,
right.
nonstop, rain, snow, sleet, no sleep. I mean, just crazy, things. But we're all capable of doing it. But they're always pushing themselves way out of those comfort zones. And I think I admire that tremendously.
Yeah. So that brings me to this. What's next for you? How do you get out of the comfort zone?
I'm like in a cocoon right now. I don't have any event on the horizon right now. I don't, Tom. I mean, I hate to say that. I'm reading more, but that's not really pushing me out of my comfort zone as far as I'm not, it's good and I really enjoy that. But I've really got to get something on the calendar. I know we're trying to grow our business here and we're doing some uncomfortable things, but that's
Yeah,
what we
that's the
should
other
be
thing
doing, I guess.
that's the other thing that sometimes I miss personally is that getting out of your comfort zone does not have to be a physical pursuit. And in fact, as I look at it, these extreme physical things are actually quite within my comfort zone. Like if you told me, okay, you've got to go do Kokoro again, I'd be like, great, I know exactly how to train for it. Everything's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but I know I can do it. No problem. Right? That's comfort. You tell me you're going to have to go do a 30-day silent retreat. That is not.
That's really
So,
interesting.
yeah.
Even a
Or,
10-day.
yeah. Or anything. One day. Can
Yeah.
you imagine not
Yeah.
talking for a whole day?
Yeah,
It might
would
be great.
really
My
uncomfortable.
family would love it. Um, so probably lots of people would love it. But then, learning a foreign language, trying to go to one of these business conferences, maybe I don't know, whatever it is that you hate about doing your business. What if you got really good at it? Like you don't like doing the social media. Well, what if you went to a social media seminar and you learned how to do it, or you learned how to find the right person to hire for your thing? Wouldn't that make your life way better? It's like get somehow you've got to get out of that comfort zone and you got to keep doing it on a regular basis. And at some point, doing it regularly, doing the physical comfort zone enough makes that within your comfort zone.
I totally agree with that. Whether you're getting up at 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, 6, and eventually, a lot of people don't like that. But you're so right. Once you've done it for 30 days, roughly,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal.
Right.
I mean, it's in and that just shows.
Yeah,
us,
but once you've done these type of events for 20 years,
it just shows us what we're able to absorb and adapt to, and how much more we really can do.
mhm,
Right? I mean, we can do so much more than what we currently are doing. All of us. All of us.
yeah. Well, that's probably a pretty good place to end it because we definitely all need to be on that path of learning how we can do more. But I
Doing
appreciate
more,
you
and
sitting down with me.
how do we help others? How do we reach
And
out, help
well,
others?
there you go. How
on
to
that
help
path?
others, because I think as you're helping others, you in turn are lifting yourself. That's one of the first things they told us in Kokoro when it got tough was, listen, you're going to go through a lot of hard times in the next 50 hours. The easiest way to make yourself feel better is to reach out to the person next to you
That
and
is
help
so
them
true.
up. And it worked greatly. And that was not a privilege afforded to us in Go Ruck Selection. And the difference was profound. And I talk about that a lot with Patrick St. Charles. So if you're listening to this and you want to hear about Go Ruck Selection, you can listen to the event or the podcast I did with Patrick St. Charles. He has been in Go Ruck Selection twice. The first time he pretty much failed miserably. The second time he did amazingly well and ended up in third with only 3 people remaining until his mind was still strong, but his body betrayed him, and he had to drop.
Tons of respect for Patrick.
Yeah,
Tons of respect. Just to even go back.
right.
Just to even sign up and go back. Phenomenal athlete.
Just to sign up and go the first time.
That's true. That is so true.
Takes
But
a lot of respect.
yeah, I mean,
That's a different event. And on that podcast with Patrick, I compare Kokoro and selection from my experience. And everybody's got a different experience, and I'm no expert at it. And I made one and did not make the other. Take that for what it's worth. But anyway, Matt, I'm glad you could sit down here with me and talk about all this. And I look forward to the next book. What's it going to be? What do we have?
I think we're doing Abundance.
Oh, Abundance.
Yeah, Abundance.
Yeah. And that's by Peter Thiel?
No, the futurist guy.
Tia. No.
No, it starts with a D, I believe.
The X Prize.
Yes.
Peter
Diamandis.
Maybe we said that wrong. But anyway, Abundance. So if you get on the blog and you check out and you read every one of these books, you can then read Abundance.
That's right. Only after you've read them all first.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I hope you got something out of that. Got just a little bit of news. We have started a weekly show that is designed to be up-to-the-minute videos of what's happening this week, mostly in the Florida Keys, but also in other places that we fish as well. We'll be putting that out every week, and the best way to find that is to subscribe to the YouTube channel, YouTube/Saltwater Experience. Search Saltwater Experience on YouTube. Subscribe to that channel, and you will get updates of when a new video is published. I've also figured out how to put the podcast on YouTube, finally. A lot of people like to put that window behind other things they're working on and listen to the podcast while they are working. So we now have that for you, and there is a playlist called Podcast. There's a playlist called Weekly Show. You can go and see all the new videos that we're putting up there. Started a new email address specifically for this show, and that is podcast@saltwaterexperience.com. podcast@saltwaterexperience.com. Those emails come directly to me. I'll see every single one of them. So if you have comments, suggestions, ways we can make the show better, and particularly if you have suggestions of someone you would like to see me sit down with in the hunting world, in the fishing world, in the outdoor sports world, or just a motivation, inspirational character, or someone that can teach us all something, I'm very interested in your suggestions. So that's podcast@saltwaterexperience.com. You can get the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, and we're also publishing it on the blog. The weekly show will be published on the blog too, but the best way is to go to YouTube, subscribe there, and you'll get it immediately when it's published. So until next week, thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.